Rubbish. Watching this down. That comes on. There you go.
This is, I suppose you'd say, he is one of the men of the moment, Andy Burnham, current Greater Manchester Mayor, may well be candidate for Makerfield constituency, should the NEC approve it. There he is.
Oh, there he is! Surprise, surprise! There was nothing genuine about that little stunt, but onlookers were somewhat baffled when, after departing his large gated Victorian-style home in Merseyside at 12:18 p.m, Mr. Burnham returned 45 minutes later, not out of puff on foot, but instead behind the wheel of his VW Golf. Something is happening in British politics that the mainstream media and Westminster elite just don't want you to see. It is the rise of the grassroots movement of Restore Britain and Rupert Low, with the insurgent party now claiming it's them that has the best chance of stopping an Andy Burnham premiership, rather than the increasingly left-wing and civil war-riven Nigel Farage and Reform UK. Of course, the MSM totally in the tank with Andy Burnham, now even working with the Greater Manchester Mayor to try and set him up as some sort of hunky hero during these daily running trips. But actually, I'm going to reveal the truth about that setup imminently. What is clear is that the elite class is panicking about this by-election, because there is no guarantee that their hero Burnham is going to win. Indeed, Rupert Low posted earlier, Tuesday morning turnout in Makerfield. Restore Britain teams are going to be out all day, every day until the election. The odds are tumbling on a Restore Britain win, now as low as 9-2. History in the making, we can win this. Now, the highly sceptical Dan Hodges, he is the Labour columnist at the Mail, who is in the pro-Burnham camp, had a very public panic, posting, on the Great Restore debate, I'm told the pollsters will begin prompting them in Makerfield. This may well artificially inflate their perceived support in the constituency and boost their profile, but I suspect it will not be reflected in actual votes on polling day. To which Rupert responded, you should see our canvassing returns. Remember, this is the same Dan Hodges who promised that Restore would never run in the seat in the first place. So Rupert further clarified his position, given there is so much debate on this on the right, by explaining, there seems to be some confusion about what I said when I launched Restore Britain as a political party. I said we're going to offer the British people a genuine alternative, finally providing men and women from outside the political establishment a democratic route out. I said it and I meant it. Not a failed Tories wearing a turquoise rosette, but bringing in new and fresh faces who have no experience of driving our country into the dust. We did it in Great Yarmouth in 10 seats, putting those candidates. We won all 10. We decimated the competition. Now we are taking it national. Makerfield. They laughed when I said we'd win Great Yarmouth. We beat them all. I'm now saying the same about Makerfield. We are in this to win it. And look, on stage at the weekend, it was made clear to Tommy Robinson that the UTK crowd, I mean, that is a crowd of patriots, right, who you might previously have thought would support Reform UK, that they were actually behind Restore Britain. I want to show you what happened.
I never said I was voting for this.
I'm not going to tell you which political party you need to join. We're a cultural movement. I'm going to tell you that you have to join a political party. I don't care if it's Reform,
I think
if
it's
it's Advance,
the
or it's Restore, or it's a Conservative party. We have to locally get involved in politics. Alright, who's want to be? I know what you're going to say.
I'm trying to represent Rupert Low.
There's company in Restore.
Everything. Julie Gowns, everything. Nope.
We cannot go home from this event and go back to sleep.
So there is now also panic from inside the right-wing pro-reform media establishment. Now, you know, that's GB News, that's Talk TV, led by shills like Mark Dolan. Watch this exchange.
Phillips, bitch.
Well, from Dan on this by-election.
Morning, Mark. Forget about the Tories. We need Restore Britain to stand down their candidate for Makerfield. Because just like in a general election, they definitely can't win it, Restore, but they can certainly prevent Reform from winning it. Which is madness because we all know they agree on pretty much everything. And Rupert Low is just doing it because he hates Nigel now and he needs to stop.
Interesting voice note from Dan. Thank you for that. Isabel, do you think it would be helpful if the parties on the right, Restore, and perhaps the Conservatives did not run a candidate to give Reform a clean run at this seat?
Well, I know that there are significant figures inside the Conservative Party who are inclined to that way, you know, that they don't privately, and I think Jacob Rees-Mogg has actually said it publicly, that they don't think that the Conservatives should stand a candidate. Now, there's no way the Tory party leadership is going to go with that. But what they could do, there will be a Tory party candidate on the ballot paper. But what they can do is just basically not really do any campaigning. You know, it could be more just a paper candidate. What they could do, there will be a Tory party candidate on the ballot paper.
On the ballot paper? What do you mean? So on the Reform Party, it can be a Tory.
Conservatives should stand a candidate. Now, there's no way the Tory party leadership is going to go with that. But what they could do, there will be a Tory party candidate on the ballot paper. But what they can do is just basically not really do any campaigning. You know, it could be more just a paper candidate. These paper candidates often pick up more votes than other parties would like. But nonetheless, they could, you know, the Tories could be helpful here if they wanted. Unfortunately, there's no prospect whatsoever of Rupert Low taking that attitude. Your caller was absolutely right. This is all about principle for him. It's all about trying to undermine Nigel Farage's operation. And I think that is very regrettable because, you know, he and his party can't win across the country, won't win, and they are just taking votes from Reform. But nonetheless, I defend his democratic right to do that. It does take guts for anyone to start new political parties. He's picked up a bit of traction. There will never, by the way, be any alliance between Reform and Restore. There is a lot of bad blood there, and you know, Rupert Low is undermining everything that Nigel and Richard are trying to achieve.
No, he's not.
You've got to admit that these channels are in the tank for one political party. I'm going to now use the example of GB News. And it was all the Minihang who pointed this out, actually. She said, in reference to GB News presenters, Ben, Marson and Patrick all posted about Reform's candidate selection for Makerfield, but nothing about Restore. The bias is really quite blatant and shocking. Come on, boys. Aren't you supposed to be the People's Channel? And she's right. Look at this. Patrick Christie's. Reform announced their candidate for Makerfield. Here's the campaign video. Martin Daubney. Lots of people saying it's a smart move to go for the local lad, not another parachuted and outsider. Of Robert Kenyon, a plumber Bloxburn, his place in British political history will be secured. And Ben Leo, Reform's plumber candidate for Makerfield, coming to drain the swamp. That post was retweeted. What do you call it now? Reposted by Reform UK, the party itself. But I've ignored this woman, who I think usually would be someone that GB News would love. Restore's candidate is a local businesswoman, straight talking, called Rebecca Shepherd.
I'm ignoring her.
I would say a common sense party with a trustworthy leader who cares about his people, his constituents, doesn't try and lie about anything, and just really wants the best for the people. And that's it, isn't it? That's all we want. We just want to be recognised. We want us as British people to be put first.
100%. By Restore Britain.
Restore Britain.
Well done.
Now look, I think she seems great. But I actually am fair and balanced. I'm not a shill for any party. I'm not a member of any party. I'm completely independent. And I think Reform UK's candidate is a goddamn strong choice too. They have gone for a local plumber, born in the constituency. This is how they announced it. Makerfield was Andy Burnham's backup plan. For Robert Kenyon, it's his home. This battle will be David versus Goliath. And in true Reform style, they had a Hollywood trailer ready to go. And needless to say, it is very impressive watch.
Travelling
Was
anywhere
born
is
in
very, very
Makerfield.
difficult.
If I was elected, I'd be the
So,
first person born in
at
the
the moment,
constituency to become the MP. I don't think any
not
MP
saying
that's
I
actually in Makerfield was actually born
if
in
you
the
do
area.
it, but
I'm a plumber, gas engineer.
at the
Done that a
moment
long
things are
time.
a
Did
bit
my
difficult.
apprenticeship when I was 18. I love being a plumber. I do enjoy it. It's hard, but I do enjoy it because I do take pride in work. That's why it gets me a bit emotional sometimes, thinking there's a chance that I can be representing people in Parliament, because it's a massive honour.
No, it sounds right.
And people, they think, I'm going to be.
Don't get me wrong, he sounds like a good guy, mate.
Labour and probably the majority of the other parties.
He does actually.
I've
He
got
sounds
great
pretty
politicians,
cool as
they
well,
go to private schools, to university,
Yeah,
they
he
get a
sounds
job
good.
at a think tank, or they do an assessment to an MP, and then before you know it, they're parachuting into somewhere they've never even visited to stand as an MP. They might know the system, they might know how politics works, they might know Westminster, but they don't know the area or people, you know. You can read a book about something, but you'll never understand it until you actually do it. For all you know, Makerfield will be a stepping stone, but for me, it's the only place to represent. People in this area, this constituency, can take advantage of it far too long. It's time to take a stand. The Makerfield constituency deserves a local champion. You have got a voice. Make that voice heard on June 18th in this Makerfield by-election and go out and vote for Reform UK.
Okay, so they both look great, right? They both look great.
Both look great.
I can't pick between them at this point, but the dirty tricks have already begun. Interestingly, the first grenade was thrown by CCHQ. That's the Conservative Party, by the way, their press department, which posted just an hour after the announcement. Care to explain what Robert had his Twitter account suspended for? Dan Hodges then added, told there may be some other issues surrounding Robert Kenyon that might raise serious questions about reforms vetting processes. Now, some of these concerns seem to link back to an article by Searchlight magazine in June 2024, which was headlined "The Reform Candidate Friends with New British Union Leader." They posted a question to Farage and Tice, saying, "Hey, Nigel Farage and Richard Tice, you might want to ask your Makerfield Reform candidate Robert Kenyon why he includes Gary Rakes amongst his Facebook friends. We only ask because Rakes, an ex-member of both BNP and Britain First, is now leader of the new British Union, the latter-day incarnation of Oswald Mosley's British Union of Fascists. Just asking." Hodges then added, understand Robert Kenyon has attempted to delete his entire recent social media history. But I mean, some of this is just so pathetic. Like,
what do you mean?
Friends. We only ask because Rakes, an ex-member of both BNP and Britain First, is now leader of the new British Union, the latter-day incarnation of Oswald Mosley's British Union of Fascists. Just asking. Hodges then added, understand Robert Kenyon has attempted to delete his entire recent social media history. But I mean, some of this is just so pathetic. Like, Reform Party UK Exposed thinks they have found a sort of smoking gun because Kenyon previously retweeted Lotus Eaters star Carl Benjamin. Well, I think that makes him far more sound, actually. That would make me more likely to vote for this guy. Nurinder Kaur is also in on the effort too, posting to all those defending Reform candidate Robert Kenyon and saying it's tweets from 10 to 20 years ago. Perhaps you would have had a point, but in fact, vile social media posts and alleged campaigns are recently. And this is about the fact that he supported a guy called Dylan Carey, who was sentenced for his actions during the Southport riots. Well, given Lucy Connolly was a star guest, quite rightly, at a Reform UK conference, I don't think that's going to be particularly worrying the party's top brass. I guess what's fair to say as we come on here today, it remains unclear why Kenyon's account was suspended, but the rabid left clearly trying to clutch at any desperate straw possible. I would say the biggest test is whether Reform UK can actually stand up to this cancel culture nonsense. I think if they do, it will make the party more popular. Then you come to Labour, where today there has been a total stitch-up. The party's National Ruling Committee only shortlisted Andy Burnham. So locals didn't even have a choice. It's about who they wanted to represent their constituency. So much for lefty democracy, right, when there's a Prime Minister to oust. So Reform's attack ad graphics are going to attempt to paint Burnham as a career opportunist putting personal ambitions above the people of Makerfield. They've even got a seat generator, making the point that Burnham is using the seat simply to return to Parliament and take Keir Starmer's job. As Robert Jenrick put it, he'll stand anywhere, he'll say anything, and he's in it for himself, not make a field. Farage's campaign has already been slightly undermined, though, by the party's Hull Mayor, Luke Campbell, seemingly endorsing Burnham for Prime Minister.
Just being silly.
Are you optimistic that if Andy Burnham became Prime Minister, he would use his influence to champion the North of England in the way he does as Mayor?
I think he would. Look, I've met Andy several times. I ain't had a deep conversation with him about his politics, but he seems like a really nice guy to me.
What kind of Prime Minister do you think he would make?
I don't know. No idea, I guess we'd have to wait and see.
And look, I think that does sum up the problem with Reform UK for me. I have no doubt Luke is a very nice guy, but he's a lefty, really, isn't he? He's not a true believer. He doesn't understand how damaging Burnham will be to this country. I do. After all, this is a guy who is already U-turning on what he really wants to do, what his goal really is. Overturning the biggest democratic vote in British history and causing a civil war while he's at it. Watch.
You join the EU or stay out? Long term, I'm going to be honest, I'm going to say it. I want to rejoin it. I hope in my lifetime I see this country rejoin the European Union. I'm absolutely clear about it.
Now let's compare that moment with what he's saying now.
Long term, I'm going to be honest, I'm going to say it. I want to rejoin it. I hope in my lifetime I see this country rejoin the European Union. I'm absolutely clear.
I'm not proposing that the UK considers rejoining the EU. I respect the decision that was made at the referendum, and it's going to undermine everything I've said about strengthening democracy if we don't respect that vote.
And what the London elites completely underestimate is how absolutely goddamn furious we remain with this constant Labour plot to undermine Brexit. So Hodges claimed, look, we've got a by-election coming up and we'll all know the results soon, but trust me, if Reform wander around Makefield saying vote for us to save Brexit while Burnham is saying vote for me to show Starmer the door, Burnham walks it. But Reform's Nadine Dorries replied, this isn't a referendum on Starmer. Starmer has gone already and is now squatting in number 10 until he's forced out. It's so undignified. If Reform win, Labour are totally finished. If Labour win, we go backwards, divide the country and rejoin the EU. Ashton Ward added, you have already made the Makerfield by-election a vote on rejoining the EU. 65% of Makerfield voted to leave. He is a Remoaner. He's not just a Remainer, he is one of these loser Remoaners who will never move on. What Burnham wants his pitch to be, though, he doesn't want it to be about Brexit for political reasons. He wants it all to be about changing Labour.
If I get to stand, a vote for me will be a vote to change Labour, because Labour needs to change if we're to regain people's trust.
And the MSM is totally in the tank for him trying to portray the Manchester Mayor, who, remember, has already failed twice to become Labour leader, as some type of hunky hero. Here's Sly News leading the charge.
This is, I suppose you'd say he is one of the men of the moment, Andy Burnham, current Greater Manchester Mayor, may well be candidate for Makerfield constituency, should the NEC approve it. There he is.
There he is, look, see
But
ya.
first, quick gut check for the new year. Data leaks aren't rare, they're routine. When a major breach lands, it's millions of records in one blast. Phone numbers, home addresses, logins, sometimes much worse. The nasty trick, that data gets traded indefinitely. Data brokers and people search sites buy and resell it on loop, so scammers, stalkers, even a nosy employer can surface far too much with a simple search. That's why I use Incogni. In a murky industry, it's the service independently verified by Deloitte. They send removal requests to hundreds of broker sites and private databases, chase the slow ones, and log confirmations as records are taken down. Getting started is simple. Create your account and share just enough to find your exposed profiles. Give Incogni one-time permission to act on your behalf. They launch the takedowns and keep following up so your data doesn't creep back online. The standout on the unlimited plan that I use is custom removals. Spot your details anywhere, so court portals, old company directories, people search results, that type of thing. Paste the exact link into your dashboard. Incogni's privacy specialists take it from there, beyond the automated list. Unlimited links handled by real humans. It's low effort, it works, and it buys genuine peace of mind. They can't target you if they can't find you. So don't wait for the next breach. Go to incogni.com/outspoken now and get 60% off an annual plan. That's incogni.com/outspoken. Protect yourself, your loved ones, and your future. But now, back to the show. Oh, there he is! Surprise, surprise! There was nothing genuine about that little stunt, with the Daily Mail revealing, after being photographed in the running for the Labour leadership on Friday, fitness fan Andy Burnham insisted to sceptics that he had not arranged for his daily jog to be filmed by the media. But the Daily Mail can reveal that onlookers were somewhat baffled when, after departing his large gated Victorian-style home in Merseyside at 12:18 p.m, Mr Burnham returned 45 minutes later, not out of puff on foot, but instead behind the wheel of his VW Golf. As the photos landed on news desks and headlines flashed alongside them that Mr Burnham was on the right track, hitting the ground running and out of the blocks in the race for Prime Minister, he was actually collecting his car from an unknown location nearby, and by 1:05 p.m. was back home. Now, called out by critics online, the Mayor of Greater Manchester insisted his short jog was not a publicity stunt, but one onlooker who was there on Friday remained sceptical. It was definitely staged, they said. How would the television cameras know to be on the exact spot on his route if it wasn't a setup? Now, interestingly, the Daily Telegraph points out today that Burnham's jogging is actually part of a carefully orchestrated political PR campaign. Yeah. Although Chris Strange pointed out it's probably not working. Writing, if you're doing a run every morning, then that gut of yours shows you've been eating lots of pies and drinking like a sailor on shore leave the rest of the time. Don't bullshit us. We're not as stupid as you think we are. And Burnham wasn't happy when a duo of TV News and Reform supporters started pointing out this scam. So Alex Armstrong was first. He wrote, have you ever gone for a run, had the national press show up totally out of the blue, then picked up your car up somewhere on the route and drove home? Definitely not all planned. And Chris Rose added, this is hilarious. The Daily Mail has revealed that Andy Burnham was jogging at 12:18 p.m. Then he returned home 45 minutes in his VW Golf. His jog was just a photo op. Why pretend to jog? It just makes him look fake and untrustworthy, something the public hates about politics. Well, Andy Burnham, he actually bit. He replied to both Chris and Alex. The messages were virtually identical, but this is what he said to Chris. As it happens, Chris, it's part of my regular routine. Ask my neighbours. I often leave my car at Newton and do my morning run to pick it up. I did it again today because I had a pint at the match. I've got 2 words for that. Sure jam. What's most remarkable, though, is that parts of the MSM are even today still backing slippery Starmer. Look at this. True propaganda from the Daily Mirror. I will not walk away. That's after new YouGov polling revealed that if Burnham fails to win the by-election, then 2-tier care somehow remains, and I'm sorry, I've really got to check the mental health of Labour Party members actually, remains the most popular choice. Thrashing the wannabes, Red Rainer, the tax evader, West Streeting, Mad Miliband, Yvette Cooper, Shabana Mahmood, and Alan Carnes. And even Robert Heston is foreseeing a civil war prompted by Starmer's refusal to leave the stage. I mean, he's basically squatting at number 10 Downing Street at the moment, right? Which backs up what a senior political source previously told me. He will have to be airlifted out of there for his own safety by the end of his reign. But this is what Woke ITV's political editor wrote on X. Starmer says that if someone, say Burnham, were to get the requisite 81 nominations and were to trigger a leadership contest, he would join the fray and fight. If he is to be taken at his word, this isn't just any old hardball, but is deathmatch stuff, with the survival of the Labour Party in the frame. All the important trade union leaders want Starmer to quit, as do a significant number of Labour MPs. I'm not going to say most because reliable data is not available, though the party is conspicuously split. Starmer is saying, bring it on if you've had enough, and we have to assume that the Evertonian Burnham believes he is. What is highly probable is that if Burnham wins, and Starmer says he ain't budging, we may witness the kind of mayhem that could destroy Labour. I'm not exaggerating. Their party is so ideologically riven and so weakened by factionalism that an emotional leadership contest that barks like civil war may put paid to any rolling back of the stone and any escape from the grave. Robert Peston, I'm going to tell you something for free. Seriously, you don't need to worry about that. Labour's done. They're never coming back. It's over.
That's it.
For good.
For good.
Now, the superstar panel. And what a lineup with me today. Restore Britain's Richard Donaldson. He is making his outspoken debut. Women's rights campaigner Kelly J. Keane. The brilliant Peter C. Barnes of Politics Unspun. And Colin Brazier, now hosting the Brazier Show Fridays on Outpost. So, Colin, very interesting choice. Very interesting choice by Reform UK. Interesting to see immediately that even the Conservatives are trying to say, oh, this dude's dodgy, right? He's got dodgy social media posts. You know Reform very well. Surely they wouldn't have made this choice if they weren't aware of that. And there's no going back now, is there?
I don't think so. I don't think there's any going back on it. I think they will have done their vetting. I've been doing, Dan, some media training with would-be Reform councillors in recent months. I've been consistently struck by the quality and the calibre of the candidates that people are coming forward. These are people who feel the country is increasingly ungovernable. They have a hinterland like this candidate in the real world, not like, 74 Labour MPs that work for charities learning how to spend other people's money. He seems like the real deal. I'd be astonished if they've not done all the vetting that they needed to do on his character and background.
Colin, I did think of you when I was watching that Luke Campbell interview where he seemed to sort of like semi-endorse Andy Burnham. Is that what we just have to come to expect from Reform UK, though? Like, they're not these highly polished, media-trained professionals, and actually maybe it's good that he gave a genuine answer. He doesn't have a hatred for Andy Burnham. He quite likes Andy Burnham. Like, maybe that was the right thing.
No.
What did you make of it?
I enjoyed it, Dan. I enjoyed the openness, I enjoyed the candour, the frankness, the truthfulness of it. We need more of that. We need people who don't try and speak out of three sides of their mouth. He was asked an honest question, a straight question, he gave a straight answer. Amen to that. Let's have more of it, please.
So you wouldn't have failed him in your media training test?
No, I wouldn't. And, just a couple of other things quickly. I thought the quality and the slickness of that Reform ad with the drones and the camera moving around the candidate was all absolutely brilliant. I'm still slightly reeling from the sight of Andy Burnham's insufficiently baggy shorts.
Oh my God, I'm sorry about that. So am I.
No, it's okay. You're right, by the way. I think, Dan, you've headed off exactly where you should do on this story today. This is Reform in jeopardy. Burnham is somebody who, in those two clips, says all that you need to hear about the peril that Brexit is now in. It's 10 years next month since that historic vote. There are people within the Labour Party whose sole political purpose, it seems to me now, is to unwind what they consider to have been this incredible travesty. I consider it to have been the moment that I was proudest to be in Britain. My late wife campaigned for Brexit. She was an old-fashioned lefty. She was a student. She was a member of the Revolutionary Communist Party. She thought there was a real left-wing reason for Brexit, the sort of Tony Benn idea that the irreducible unit of governance is the nation state. She was right. Brexiteers were right. Burnham is wrong. If he gets into Downing Street, there's a real danger he unwinds Brexit. I'm not normally in favour of tactical voting, but I think in this particular Makerfield by-election, I wish Restore would stand down. I wish the Tories would stand down and give Reform a clear.
Okay, so this is the key question. This is the key question. So we've got Richard Donaldson, who is from Restore Britain. Yeah. Richard, what do you say to that? I mean, you might let this guy Andy Burnham through, and at that point, he could do terrible things to the country, and won't people blame Restore? Dan Wootton Outspoken is available as a podcast too, so to listen or watch us on the go wherever you are, then please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Now, as a personal favour to me, please rate and review, as it really helps our independent show.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I mean, we saw the same thing in Great Yarmouth, didn't we? Restore stood under Great Yarmouth first. People said the same thing then, Restore need to stand down, let Reform take the win, and then Restore took all 10 of the seats. I don't think any party is entitled to anyone's vote, and I think particularly what we're seeing now is with Restore is an incredibly competent and clever leader with Rupert Low, who is picking his battles quite carefully. And let's not forget that only a couple of weeks ago, Restore were slated for putting up candidates in Great Yarmouth. And like I say, they won every single seat. So I think, of course, I think Rupert and the team, they know what they're doing. I'm a Restore, I'm a branch organiser, so I don't speak for the party, I speak for myself. But people are crying out for political change, for the system to not just be reformed, see what I did there, but to be completely rebuilt from the ground up. Andy Burnham, of course, is standing for Labour, but he was one of the first to wade in and try and shut down the calls for a rape gang inquiry. Do we really want someone like that winning elections? I know that Reform, is it Robert Kenyon, the plumber?
The new candidate, yes.
Brilliant. Yeah, he's brilliant. I'm not going to sit here as part, as a branch organiser and say that I think, I think he's a terrible candidate, because I don't. I think that Restore have a very good chance of winning this election in Makerfield, and the odds at the bookies, they now seem to think that they will do very well too. So
yeah, I mean, it's interesting because Dan Hodge is saying that's just delusional. Kelly J, where do you stand on this as someone who doesn't back a party, but you understand the threat that this country is under? Do you believe in tactical voting, and do you feel like Restore could be risking letting Burnham win here?
Yes, I do. I mean, I'm not going to say that I think either Reform or Restore will definitely win. Out of the two of them, I think it could quite easily be neck and neck, which will then secure Andy Burnham. And what will Labour campaign on in the next election? Well, they'll campaign on Brexit. And they'll say they'll undo it. And I think I think it's been delivered so badly. I think we all appreciate that it hasn't really been delivered at all. And people will think, well, I think I'd rather join the EU. And I think there'll be a significant number of those people. And therefore, we'll have another Labour government. And would I blame the two egos for not stepping back? 100%, yes, I would. I mean, my vote right now, if I had to vote in that election, that plumber is getting it.
But what if you saw polling, Kelly, which showed actually Restore has the better chance? Would you change your vote? So you would vote strategically based on who you thought was going to have the best chance of winning?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's been 5 minutes since anybody's announced anyone, but I think a local plumber in this current climate of lies, posturing, and just soundbite sort of politics that we've been used to, which is, oh, you've tripped up, oh, that's it, you're out. I think someone like a local plumber, I mean, like Hannah Spencer, but someone like an actual plumber, I think would do really, really well. But yeah, of course, if it looked like Restore were going to take it, then I think Reform should step back, but it can't be both.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? Because I'm just looking Peter C. Barnes, and I read your brilliant article on Politics Unspun, where you were highly critical of Reform UK's so-called vetting operation. You say it's basically not in place. So I presume you're not surprised by the fact there's already people going after this Robert Kenyon, but actually doesn't really matter. Like, I don't give a damn about any of this stuff that he's accused of. Like, actually, do you know what would make me happy here, Peter, if Reform UK said, don't care, we're standing by our man?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, really, because it's not just one incident. It's one after another, after another, after another, after another. It's the sloppiness of it. It's the lack of professionalism. It's the fact that these things keep happening and that they don't learn the lesson. It's what we call valence politics. In other words, you've got to be capable. You've got to look like you know what you're doing. It's the sloppiness that will actually hit them much more than just being friends with somebody on Facebook. That's the real damage of the vetting problem. It's not what these people have said or anything like that. It's the rate to which they keep occurring. When it comes to the issue of Brexit, by the way, it's not an issue at this by-election, no matter what people want to say, because even if Andy Burnham doesn't win, Keir Starmer, Angela Rayner, Wes Streeting are all going to do the same thing and take us back into the European Union. Whoever wins from the Labour side or loses, that is an inevitability. What you also have to ask is, if Nigel Farage and Reform own the Brexit vote, in the 75th most Brexit constituency, why is it so close? There are huge structural failings that Reform have got to deal with here, and this is why I keep saying what's actually on the ballot is the Nigel Farage inevitability myth. In other words, Nigel's never really been tested. He's never really been put under pressure to actually win. Because this seat is my home constituency, so I know a little bit about it, swung 50% in the local elections. It is Reform peak territory, 97% white, working class. It has, it's built for them. Red wall, all this kind of stuff. They're not actually walking this like they should be. No. That's a huge problem. Because this kind of constituency is going to be one of many in the next general election. And if Andy Burnham wins there, wins in Makefield, he then gets all the benefits of incumbency, he gets to be the Prime Minister, all this kind of stuff. He's going to be unstoppable. So, they have a huge problem on their hands. And I don't think Reform have quite woken up to that fact yet. No. They all seem to think that a lot of this is Rupert Low's fault. It isn't. No. Rupert Low and Restore need to do one thing. Poll around about 5%. They do that, they prove Nigel Farage is not inevitable. That he has not consolidated the right, that he has not been able to actually hold the country. May 2026 proved one thing and one thing alone. Reform found their ceiling. It wasn't a victory night for them. They spent nearly £8 million. The national equivalent vote share went down, not up. They are further away from a Commons majority today than they were a year ago. That is not progress. This by-election is make or break for Reform UK. Much more than it ever is for Restore, because as we know, the expectation management is all over the place.
It's really interesting actually, because I'm just looking at a Manchester Evening News interview that Robert Kenyon gave in June 2024, so a long time ago, when he was the candidate previously for Reform UK. And I think he's perfect for Reform actually. He grew up in a Labour household, has a military background. He actually says that some of the Reform UK policies are actually lefty policies. And while I view that as a negative thing, it actually sort of makes him perfect for that seat, I think. So I think it's going to be very difficult for people to try and get him out based on some old posts. Dan Wilson Outspoken is your no spin, no bias, no censorship outlet for independent news. We have no big tech backing or billionaires pulling my strings, but that does mean I need your support. So please hit subscribe on YouTube.